I really have to love that new intro music that we have for the video. It's so smooth, so chill, and so peaceful. We're remaking that video. But anyways, welcome back to the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions where we feature the best DJs, producers, and industry professionals from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and on the other end, on that side of the camera, or the other side of the world, coming in from Berlin, Germany, because, you know, there are a few of them I found out, we got Heiko Laux. I hope I got that right.
Yeah, you got it.
All right,
Nice
awesome.
to have you.
Heiko, thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions today.
My pleasure.
You know, you're based over in Berlin. You've been in this game for just a little bit of time now, correct? If I was doing my research right, you started your label in 1994. Were you DJing before that? Or was this something you were DJing before that? Tell us a little bit about your the startup of your passion, coming from 5 kids and being the youngest of 5 kids. Did you come from a musically inclined family and then fall into DJing as part of that? Or was this something all the older brothers, the siblings were like, we did our own thing and you chose to do that?
My older siblings, of course. Yeah. They had jobs first. They had the money. They would start buying records, and I was like, oh, what is that? What is this sound? So I kept on borrowing some of my siblings. My older brother then already went to DJ and took me along, like regionally, smaller clubs. There was like him playing for 2 hours and someone else did then a foxtrot round so people could dance foxtrot like in the 80s. Yeah. And so I started to share collection with them, with my brother. And so it's just more capacity to buy more records. I was enthused. I jumped into it entirely. My family, not so much. They have been looking for an outlet for me and didn't understand my demands, right? So like I didn't really like a regular, like a piano sound, like a real grand piano sound. Yes, this is my thing. I would love to learn, but like a regular one to start with, I didn't want to. I can have a violin, you know. It's like I wanted a synthesizer. You know? So I needed tape deck with a hard touch to do dub mixes and stuff, and like so I could manipulate and So that's but my parents were like more get a real job, you know, this kind of thing, and they put me into a marching band with age 12, and I think that sometimes still shows in my music. I think that I had like snare drum to play in a marching band, and you know. And I learned maybe age 10, I learned maybe one march. And then we went to a festival and we had to go parading. And I played just all the pieces just out of my memory. I heard them like twice and then let's go. And it's like, oh, that's good. You can now play everything.
At what age did you play your first DJ gig? Like in a club, or did you start out maybe playing obviously in your bedroom, like most people start practicing in their bedroom, but what was your first club gig? And do you remember that?
A club gig. A Cornerstone, I remember, not even having started the label, I ran a bar named Kanzlerand as well. Mm-hmm. And that started even a year earlier. And then, you know, some of the artists walked in there. It's like, oh, it's great. We have no place here. And that made it possible to start the label. And in 93, I had only because of this, I had the bar. I was listed somewhere. I got asked to play in Mulhouse and in Basel. And so like the 3 corner countries. So I had a German gig and then rode over for the after hour to Mulhouse, France. Right, so I had one night in 3 different countries in 93, like to play and to perform.
One night?
In one night, yes. No, this is all very close by. It's like 20 kilometers over, and then you're in France, and then there's the after hour. So you play some more in the after hour. So and then going with it by car all the long distances and something like you did in the 90s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a cornerstone. Yes, if I really have played clubs before, yeah, regional, yes, yeah, but it doesn't really count to that standards, I think.
And when you were running the bar, the pub, and then running the label, and then you started DJing. When did you kind of make the transition? Did you ever become a full-time DJ? Like, okay, this is now my career, and or did it take some progression, like running the label, running the pub, and then later on down the line, it all came together and you were able to do it as a full-time job?
I think I stopped my job in '92 to do this. And then I was a bit confronted with the business end of the label. So I started also working, I think 3 days a week at Neutron distribution out of Offenbach near Frankfurt at the time, which gave me, how do I do promotion, how many white labels I need for promotion, and how to connect it to pressing plants and all. They wanted me because I have a background in wholesales, and then there's like, oh yeah, someone has a qualification and is into this, we can use them. So this is how I ended up there, and it was a lovely period. I have to say, it was Ricardo Villalobos in the warehouse, then and he would just like collect the records for the stores and compile them for shipment, and then tear up the empty boxes, and then sometimes we left for a drink or so. No career started yet, and some more.
And you started your label. Please, I hope I get this right. Kanzlerama.
Kanzleramt, like
Kanzleramt.
Yeah.
And you started that in 1994. Was that done because you wanted to produce music, or you were looking for other artists to work with and produce their music?
No, I was already producing that music like a long time. So I got my first little moped and drove some villages over to get me a synthesizer. So as soon as I made some own money, I bought the gear. And actually, some friends of my brother, they kind of heard when they were visiting what I was doing, and they kept asking me, "Come on, do me a tape. This is cool stuff. I want a tape." So, and it's like, "Oh no, I don't really want it. I give you 10 marks. Okay, 10 marks. Okay, I'll come back next week. I'll have your tape." And so slowly, more demand. I raised the prices a little bit. I bought me a double tape deck so I could copy that. So then I had every other week people coming over. It's like, "Oh, I want the new tape." And so, and I used all the money to buy new records to get in these B-side mixes and all of that. And that was really fun because I was always kind of made doing it, as an example that counts for other structures as well.
And was that something, did that ever lead into getting you radio play? Did any of those tapes ever get in the hands of any local radio stations? Because I mean, obviously the internet.
I didn't think that far at the time. I didn't think that far. I just want the money to buy more records. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all there is.
I mean, the internet. Yeah. Go ahead.
The obsessiveness. I was very obsessed with it, and I only had the one turntable who could actually pitch. And then plus minus 6%, and the other one couldn't. So I had a permanent groove in the nail of my little finger, because I had to like slow the record down in order to make a mix, which is to regular decks. This is extremely difficult, but that's what I had. Yeah. So I learned the hard way, and I had to start over many times. 45-minute side of a tape. And then the last one is kind of like, the damn drive kind of like it wobbled. I didn't want this away. So I had to memorize up front and then do the same thing again.
That seems like a lot of work, but that goes right into my next question. How much of a perfectionist are you?
Oh, babe, I'm the bad one. It's like I can, if you let me work on it, I'm probably die of hunger, before I get it ready. So I think I kind of, over the time, I kind of gave up to get it really like perfect, and switched over to kind of like be in the moment. And I had to learn really that the best moments in the club are when you did a mistake, or you felt like you're doing a mistake, and you want to pull yourself out of it again. So the next 15, 20 minutes are really the ones shining. where I do my best, like, oh yeah, you weren't really awake for that one, and then this kind of as a method of working out of that bump. Yeah.
And when you make a track, do you go out there with the intention of making it popular, or do you make it just to satisfy yourself, and success is kind of a nice side effect?
Most of the times I don't have a target really. I just start fiddling with something, and then this could fit along. This could fit along. I'm very much of the comping end of thing, or like I think I also like the super collider method, like where stuff collides on your board, and then it's having this energy. It's like, it's mysterious. Like I want to work with that, and it's. And so I follow this trail. I am much more productive, I have to say, if I do have a grid or keep one in mind. What do I want to do? So I had a nice night being out, and the next day with this kind of grid for that kind of floor where I've been. It's like I want to do it for that. They turn out to be the more popular tracks, I guess. Mm-hmm. But that's the only thing I have in mind. Is just want to capture the energy, and then I'll go to something similar. What I think I've taken away, what little detail made this special energy.
And I mean, starting out in the 90s, you definitely came out of a hardware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hardware. What's the word I'm looking for? Not hardware genre, a hardware era. A hardware era. Do you still continue to this day with the same hardware setup in your studio, or have you transferred to software?
Mix it up totally. Most of it, I think at this point, all my mixes have been, with the outboard gear, has been captured audio already, and so I can manipulate it further.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever make any music that's outside of your genre that never gets released?
But up to now, I almost kept it for myself. When in the Constraint history, I did Offshore Funk as a project, which was more in the fusion-y jazz area. But also like, the early 2000s, like 909 Drives and a little tribal, but the fusion harmonies. And so on. And I had a nice studio neighbor, Theo. He introduced me. He's like, you can do that. And if you want to, because he is, he studied on the saxophone. So he has this educated background. And he's like, if you want to do it this way, you can arrange it that way. And so I opened up this world which I basically called song mode. So techno and doing tracks is like really track mode in the way this collision works and produces an energy. More than the sum of its parts, and I was like, this is mesmerizing. I need to frame it somehow and make it, and then I'll make a track, right? Like this element somehow lives, shines, and dims away, and I want to frame it. So that's then a track. And in song mode, I go like, I need another chord to fill in here, and I'm so often get stuck writing it, and I'm writing like way too much stuff, and then I don't know. Then I'm comping it down, take the gems, and then I'll have a mood board moment, and so on. Then I know how the song will be.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that the line between DJing and producing has gotten smaller over the years? It used to be. Well, I mean, you hear from a lot of people that there used to be producers and there used to be DJs. Now a lot of DJs are producing. A lot of producers have become DJs as well to promote. It's kind of like, is it now one and the same, or do you still see a separation between the two in the industry?
Well, if I think back on the non-techno stuff, I've just finished like 9 tracks of that. That's impossible. I'm not a figure for this kind of music. Like I wouldn't be expected to DJ then like downbeaty things or something. Or I don't know. I was just drifting away with music. That's all. And I just recorded all of this. And I'm thinking, it's not even a label to put that on. I'm gonna confuse people. So I'm not sure what to do with it, and I'm just in the process of organizing all of that. what you were saying is more that is just a more successful in the way this works. You know, the DJ goes out, travels, the producer sits in the studio, and so not necessarily the same thing. If that is one of the same person, you show your face everywhere. When you play good sets, including your own music, you create. You know, this is how this is balanced in a way, and this is if you can do both, you're lucky.
If you can find the time to do both, from what I understand. And when it comes to promoting yourself, and what have you done, or what have you seen with the change in social media becoming so prevalent, so much of a necessity now for an artist to have? I mean, you didn't have social media in 1994 and 92.
No, a part of me, if I got into the business this way, I went to a party, I performed, people have heard this, it's like, I've got to get this dude, on my party, and so and then people came and checked it out. So this is how my business was growing. It was entirely based on performance. Mm-hmm. And I never signed up to be on social media to get this somehow forward. If you look at my Facebook page, it's bloody boring, I'm not posting much. I kind of somehow lost the drive. I'd rather be in the studio, where this topic goes, right where I have, let's say, the most headroom of everything, so I can. So my agent is sometimes furious with me because I'm a world-class procrastinator in posting things, and then there's like, oh, it's over, I didn't post it, sorry. So I don't know.
I know nothing about trying to motivate DJs to make social posts about things. No, we have our resident crew, and I love them to death. And one of the biggest things that I stress on them that they can do to help promote themselves nowadays is get on the socials, use the hashtags, go into groups, go into forums, talk to people, and build your brand online, because the industry now has shifted in a sense where I hear a lot of booking agents will go and say, okay, you want to be booked? Let me go check. What are your Instagram numbers? How many TikTok followers do you have?
Well, that happened to me already 10, 15 years ago. Then that wasn't enough Facebook. Let me know when you get to 30,000, I'll book you. It's like,
exactly.
Venue, I tore your venue apart like 10 times, right? So I don't know. It doesn't. I just want to create. This is
and I mean, sometimes some of the DJs they offset and they hire social media managers to come in and take care of that for them, which is great. It's all part of the marketing, the show business. I mean, if you had a press kit and you're out there and you're trying to put it in the hands of people, that was the old have a really good EPK. You probably heard that term back in the day. Electronic press kit, and you try to make that and get it in the hands of everyone, and then came the flash drive stick or it got tapes, and then it was CDs. You try to hand those out at the club to everyone, and you get the promo CDs, and there'll be some great mixes and stuff you'd never hear. But now with things like SoundCloud or even the DJ sessions, it's one of the reasons I started the DJ sessions was to start an online live streaming platform that DJs could come and do their mixes, and then it would live online. And they could use that as a calling card as part of their electronic press kit to reach people and say, this is what I sound like. This is what I look like live. And of course, later on in life, things like SoundCloud and these services came out, Spotify. And, what is your take on the dominance that Beatport has on the DJ scene for music right now?
I don't know if I have a take. Is there anything evil happened or so? I mean, DJs, they'll gotta have to buy the files if they want to show up with the USB stick, and the club's file gotta be on there. You don't want to risk streaming it from somewhere while you're playing it, So you gotta own the file. So it's a platform where DJs get their files. Did they do anything like Spotify style and supported an AI for 100 million? Or
the services are coming out, from what I understand, is that you're going to be able to access your library from the cloud and have access to Beatport or buy a song right there on the fly
Yeah,
while you're playing
yeah.
a set, if there's good
You
internet.
already see this guy doesn't give a shit. Yeah. No, I mean, we talked about where this is coming from, right? There is my record case, which actually traveled with me. It has actual travel stickers, and they fit 80 records in there. And then sometimes you have to play some B-sides if the next DJ doesn't show up, if you run long for some reason. And I learned that this limitation is creation. Right, so I'm running out of time. I need to put the DJs in the area. I'm being put on the spot, and those have been particularly really good nights. If I've been put on the spot and I had to do, okay, I didn't want to, I left away some warm up houseier records, and then now I have to kind of play this on 138 and just make this work. And it's like, let's hope that there's a hard B-side, or there was music. I thought, you can't do this. I didn't dare to put this music on. And because I was running out of material, I had to put it on. And that was the arms up moment of the whole night, So this limited crate and your limited USB stick, if you bring it to the club, to have all the music, you're a jukebox, right? So like, who comes up to you and says like, "Oh, I've made this practice already on Beatport, buy and play it." It's like, what kind of conversation is this going?
I can totally understand it from that standpoint. I mean, watching electronic music go from underground to popular music over the last 30 years. The whole debate is what you just said. I mean, you take a crate of 80 records with you, and that's your ammo for the night.
Exactly.
And if you're out on the road, what happens if you're on tour? Do you bring multiple? Obviously, old school, you bring 4 or 5 cases with you if you have to play 4 or 5 different events, or are you just going with that whole 80 records for 3 or 4 or 5 events down the road?
Well, the D80 records, and sometimes if you had to go longer or to play something particular, you would take an extra bag.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much it. That's your limitation, and you go with it.
I think I like the fact that you said you have to get creative with it. You have to make something, and it to me, I see that as the original art form, and I can understand the debate between the vinyl and the sync button or CDJ.
This is part of it.
USB stick, laptop
it.
generations. It's like, are you really running out of music, or you never run out of music?
You have a loop button. You can loop and go to the bathroom.
In 13 years of doing this show, the DJ sessions, I've never learned how to DJ, and people mistake me for a DJ all the time. And I am a DJ, kind of. I only play one during live streams.
Okay.
But I'm not really a DJ, and I just can see how much work obviously would go in from even just using the tools of today. There's still a lot of work, but like you were saying with the vinyl, if you're on a bad track, you had to have your finger purposely.
Yeah, my shaken fingernail was proof of it for like a long time.
I mean, that is amazing. And do you request every set you do is always vinyl, no matter what?
No, that was the way to go. Like it's 90s. You had a CD player, but it was like rack mounted, and there was one company who had it with pitch, and the other one that had it without pitch. So you had to adjust coming from the record in order to mix in the CD, which I am totally capable of doing because I learned it the hard way.
But currently, if on your rider, do you request like Technique 12s on your rider when you go play, or it's all digital now?
No, I'm coming with my USB stick as well. See, this is like you can't. So I wrote tons of music, and I played like a set in Laux recently, and I had like at least 10 unreleased tracks of mine in that set, and then I didn't press them up to vinyl, and so this is only possible if you bring the files. I transitioned in 2005 because my precious records never returned to me after a direct flight from Düsseldorf to Berlin, and I had archived I think the most of it. There's still a hard loss, and then I transitioned to the Serato system. So I had the files, but I still was using vinyls. And then at some point I didn't bring the vinyls no more. And then at some point I didn't bring my computer no more. So I wasn't. So at the end, it's about the music. It's not really about the medium. I know I'm pissing off vinyl lovers, especially for, you had these B-sides you could use and this collecting and having, but as a medium, it's not, a lot of love goes into this to make it work and to make it sound good, and it has its own warm charm and everything. As I did the track in the studio, it was digitally captured, and it would go into vinyl production with that master. And some mastering guy would try to adjust everything, what pops out on the acetate. Oh, this snare drum, we have to take it way down, because if you cut it, it will pop out again. And so like all this extra care goes into this music. And so then this is a process, and then it gets copied around before you have the stamper and finally start pressing records. And that's that. That's also a limitation, not having a loop button, and the track you want to play is only 3 minutes long, right? And then at the end there is an actual beat to mix. It's just a sequence left, so you have to come up with something like really quick, and there is no manipulating it. You're playing all the records a little bit too fast, so the 3 minutes on the label were actually just 2 minutes and 30. And so on. You have to see also limitation and pressure and being put on the spot, and this is trying, I think,
And so I guess when it comes to 3D printing vinyl, that probably will never happen because of, like you described, the mastering process of making sure the needle doesn't pop out of the groove. That would have to be a perfect mix in order to get it a 3D printer to make a vinyl record that you can play in the show.
Now, as you mentioned it, you had to memorize every record, like how loud it was, and if it was like somehow the pressing wasn't right and it was making a little soup dish, and then you were highly likely to absorb feedback from the room, so you could only play this record with a quarter of the bass anywhere pretty much, and then other records, they had a decent cut and they would lie solid on the deck, and then you could crank a lot of bass, and actually play with the feedback from the room picked up from the needle to make it nice and boomy and warm.
That's
in that sense, because you always have the needle picking up the audience and the vibration of the room back, you manipulating the room with vinyls in a different way. And I also say like the deck in its form is like an instrument to me. I learned to play.
And speaking of getting that sound, what was the description you just used? The sound that you guys, that bassy, you just described a sound in the room.
Well, if you put the needle on and don't have the record spin, and you would just talk on it, you hear what the needle picks up on vibration. So, and I have old sets from the 90s recorded where you can hear the people scream on the recording
through the needle.
Transitions come through the vibrating of the vinyl, giving it back to the needle into the recording. So you're muffled down, of course, but you do hear people freak in recordings, and there's no open mic.
That is awesome. And
in this sense, you're manipulating the room. You're playing with the energy from the room. And like in this case, is you pick up the sonic waves in a muffled down version. It depends on how good your needle is, and so.
That's true. Yeah, definitely. And does playing to a bigger crowd satisfy you more, or do you like more small, intimate vibes where you can kind of control the room and see the people you're playing for?
I'm more of a club DJ, I think. I of course I do festivals, but it's been always more. The clubs is where it's bred, actually. And if I have a lot of people in front of me, you kind of stick to the plan too much. You don't want to you avoid being put on the spot with all cost. So, and then for bigger crowds, the sets are smaller. So you play really what you want to play. You fast forward and then, that's easy to mix on that. And that's easy to mix on that, and then and this is more like cornerstoning a smaller set. And in the club, you never know. It's like, you want another drink, you go a little longer, and then you kind of like start experimenting a little bit more, and you can challenge the crowd a little bit more. I remember like 96 or 97, must have been 97, I had like a very transy DJ playing at the Omen in front of me, and I didn't like it one bit. It kind of was like spilling my day. I had Jeff Mills' waveform transmission loaded, where it's like really like I wanted to play this like harder Detroit style, which was very new and fresh at the time and hasn't been played out like in Frankfurt a lot. And I was the sweetness just got of me from the trance. It's like, no, I don't want people to somehow go with that. And it had all this like girly thing on the dance floor. And I picked Rob Hood Minimum Nation, played the album for half an hour, almost all tracks in cuts. It just kicked from feet, click, a rim shot and a hi-hat, and so like and a 101 sequence, and that's it. And then of course I wiped the dance floor entirely. Like I didn't want to see these people dancing to trance and then to my music. I'm not that radical anymore, promoters. Yeah. So, but at the time I saw like this was I was confused. I was all sweeted up till I couldn't take it anymore, and then I did that, and the night manager came, like he gave me the eye. It's like, yeah, I know, but there's other people there. They're waiting for the tunes I'm about to play. And then he came back like 2 hours later, bought me a big joint and a big glass of vodka. And the club was exploding. Yeah.
Oh, awesome!
I can't remember like intentionally. It wasn't in the other DJ's face. I couldn't take the sweetness no longer.
Speaking of working with people and doing events and working backstage, meeting people, I mean, you started almost 30 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
Who's been your biggest influence when it comes to your career as an artist, and why?
Like on a personal level or artistically, or
wow, let's go personal and then we'll talk artistic.
Yeah, I think my older brother, first accessing all of this, and he flew to London and brought back like Acid House in '89, right, or something like that. When these records were pressed, and I'm going like, oh, I get to listen to those. Like, and I felt like I'll be in the future for a little while, but I could pick out things I liked, I didn't like, and then bought synthesizer to reproduce these moments for me in a way. And with that is a very significant jump start to compare to what people my age had at the time, right? So like I got this special insight. And I think without this jump start, and that he was also DJing, even if it was just a regional club, and it's like still showing it's possible. And I made my little track, and I wanted to sound like House Sound of Chicago on Farley, Jack Master Funk, and Jesse Saunders, Love Can Turn Around, and there's this slamming 909 in it, and it's like, how do I do the sound? So I try to approach this a little bit, and then I made a track on tape with like a Detroit kind of bass line like that, and it was a Casio sound, so it had RZ1 sounds, and then my brother played it in the club, like he mixed it in, and then my track all of a sudden, I'm 15, yeah, so my track plays in the club, and like I was like, oh my god, no one's running away, this is not bad, and so people don't really lie to me when they say like, oh, you should do this, this is good, so that there I had the proof, 14 or 15 years old, that this works in clubs and people keep on dancing, they're not running away, you're not terrible, you can do this, yeah. So that is very important personal of an influence. My parents, they are excused at this point. they, I never got the support I needed there. So like, it's all given. They did great. They did great. I love them. Musically, everything swapping over from Detroit at that time. Like we're talking right at that time, the hard house stuff. First, it was IQ stuff. It was very mild, very transy, and then trance actually came up like there. And hard house was very much too sweet. And then I realized there's import records. There is Jeff Mills and Robert Hill producing and going like, oh my, why are we not doing this? Am I feeling alone? Or just the Detroit guys, they're feeling like this? Like, how is this all connected? How can they reach me inside and give me that energy? And then I wanted to pump it out on the other end, and like listen to a track and it's like, oh, no, this has to be loud. And just my parents hated me at the time.
were they pounding on the ceiling? Turn that down. Turn that down.
No, I think I've been music obsessed, so that didn't really come as a surprise to them. I overdid it at a few times. I think next Christmas I have to write an apology list. And I had no idea on how to install the speakers correctly. So I had a very acoustically speakers, Boses, and I put them like right against the wall because there was no space. I needed time to mix, and the speakers were up in the corner. And on my spot where I wanted to mix, I didn't hear anything. So I had to crank it all the way. The sound was cornering in all corners of the room, just not where I'm sitting. So I got no idea. I shook the house and I thought, like, why is this not going louder, right? So like, instead of like positioning the speakers away from and so on, everything I know now. But the autodidact way of going things can be hard for parents.
And when you're not entertaining others, what do you do to entertain yourself? What do you do in your spare time for fun, other than producing music or listening to music or DJing music or running a label?
I have 2 doggies here.
Okay.
Oh, they're actually wondering why they're not up here. And I have to absorb a lot of material in order to do music. Somehow I want to know what's going on in the world and make a good description of it and where it could go, and so on. And therefore I have to go check out how it really is. So series, documentaries a lot, and then I'll pause it and go and work on a track. So I'm like a 1 hour documentary, 1.5 hour documentary, I can watch all day, because just some person describes something about music and it's like, oh, that is totally true. Oh, that really nailed it for me. Just like write that phrase. And so, and it's kind of like opening up that personal space for you, again, by you're not alone kind of feeling, right? So someone describes it, what you have felt all your life, and uses words and you never got to phrase it out. That's confirmation. It's worth gold to me.
Do you have a top podcast or series that you watch or listen to right now?
No, can't. I won't.
Nothing comes to mind?
No.
Because what is one of the shows that you would say you watched, the last show you watched where you had that moment that you felt, that's right, they said the right thing?
Oh my God! Now you're. It was a music a music documentary, and Questlove was in it, but also Bruce Springsteen. And then Bruce Springsteen had this like painful moment sitting in the band with the band in the studio for days and trying to come up with an idea, then like the final song to write, and then it's all quite silent and everybody tries, it's not that, it's not about that. And he so describes how this, when all of a sudden this linked together and became a moment of truth in a way, like it was the tiniest thing where it polarized on. And it's saying like, it can be the tiniest thing where it comes from, really. Like, just, so you have to follow that. And then him describing sitting there and just waiting for this moment to pass, like this moment to come, where everything polarizes on. I can't rephrase. Yeah. Paraphrase badly.
I just interviewed somebody who does a Bruce Springsteen podcast, who
Yeah.
follows Bruce Springsteen all over, like everything about his career and everything he does. It was very interesting to talk with him. Speaking about events though, coming up, you have a couple events coming up. Have you been doing events, or is this something that
I've been doing Kata Blau after the lockdowns here in Berlin, which sensationally, I have to say, it was also the last show I played before the lockdowns in 2020 March. I played showing like the next week later. The news was like, we had a super spreader event at Kata, blah blah blah, and so like how they were going after the clubs and then shut everything down. And then that was the first thing I officially played, like with full capacity, and it was fantastic. It was very extremely liberating, I have to say, because first of they're not like a techno club really, and I felt especially honored to be booked for. We're trying a techno night, and then I was booked, and then I was the only one for 2 years, and then they booked me right again, like there. And as I was told, the bar has decided, that they're like, techno guys come in, like, no, they can't come back, and I was allowed back. So that's very much from a consumer point of view. I will go to Belgium in June. I wrote the 21st of June down. Rockeril is the club where Fabrice Leak will be there. I think he's like initializing behind all this to get me there like every other year to play. And then it's Drum Code Night in Malta. It's with Joel Mull, Steve Ahmad, and so on, like before. Patrick Zich. And I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be lovely.
Will you be attending ADE this year?
That's October, right?
That's October. It's a little ways out.
I don't know. I haven't booked flights yet. Is it gonna be okay to go?
They're looking like they're moving forward. We've booked our Airbnb. We're planning to be over there. We're really super excited. It'll be my first visit to Europe and my first time going to a music conference. Well, I can't say no. That's not true.
Yeah, you picked the right one.
I went to Winter Music Conference in 2009. I had a great experience there. Yeah. But this going as the DJ sessions will be our first time going to ADE this year, and we're really excited for it. We have some kind of secret things in the works I can't talk about. Working with the event, it's really awesome, and I'm asking the question because I'm gonna look forward to meeting so many people, shaking their hands, saying hello, giving some hugs.
You will all day.
I mean, 400,000 people.
That's all you do when you're there. Like, that's you. Like, shakes and have a drink and give hugs.
What's crazy is our planning board for it kind of keeps going, we're going to do this big, huge thing. And then it's like, okay, we're going to do this smaller thing. And we're like, maybe we'll just hang out. Maybe we'll just get there, and then see what happens. That's kind of our plan, and not try to over plan it too much and go too crazy, because it just sounds like it's one of the world's most illustrious, biggest music networking kind of festivals in the world.
It is.
Yeah, I've never been there before.
There's plenty. There's so many venues. You just can, hop from one to the next, and you just meet the people out. There's a lot of friends always coming out, also going in, and so there is not many boring moments to pass. So just I'm lucky for you if you get to see it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited.
I've been many times. I've not been, obviously not the last years, but I think I've been some like 10 times in a row. And so my agent is from Amsterdam, so I don't know. I know I'm very much like I don't really. I focus on the music, and then if I'm sinking into that, I'm not really so left and right. Right? It's like what are the others doing? It's like I so love what I'm doing that I'm like drowning, and then that's the spot I'm at. I'm like I'd probably say hundreds of pieces to puzzle together. Could this be an album? Is this the album, or should change tracks around? then how do I finish it? Then I have to work on them all again to make it the framework for the album. And so and then this is a very thrilling, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. That fits with this. That could be a single, So, but then maybe I also use that sound from that for that, and it has more of a concept thing. So I do, I don't know. This is the work of a perfectionist. And one of them, 12 inches, is going to be for sure called Procrastinator. Because
I'm the procrastinator.
Out of it, releasing it, it's going to come out when I say it's ready. And so I'm like,
awesome.
My agent is killing me.
One thing in DJ producing land, technology kind of moves fast. I mean, 30 years seems like a long time span, but everything that's happened from 1994 to 2022, things are moving so fast. I mean, we got the internet now, we got computers, it's not an analog world anymore. But the biggest thing that I ask everyone, and looking to kind of future proof or move forward, looking forward to, have you looked at doing anything with virtual reality?
We're not talking NFTs, no.
That's usually my follow-up question when I ask.
Yeah, I did a little homework on that, and then I don't know. Maybe if something interesting comes along, yes, I would need to be challenged for something. I feel up for all kinds of things, but on the spot, I wouldn't have an idea right now. Like for the use, it's like so a writer writes this page and gets you to tears with it, right? So his medium is a sheet of paper and a pen. And then my main medium is like stereo audio, my ears, right? So, and this is where I try to catch the emotion in, and I feel like everything else springs of that pretty much. Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be coming from this point of view, and then it could be anything.
Yeah, we definitely. I've looked and always have been a first mover with technology ever since I started doing public access television shows in 1992, and then moved into broadcast television, and then moved into podcasting, live streaming, and obviously the internet, having a website and all that out there, and then social media. But we're really seeing VR as kind of this new frontier that you can go in and rebrand yourself in a different way again, and seeing if artists are gravitating towards that and going to start playing VR nightclubs. It'll never replace. It's like vinyl will never replace a USB drive. A VR nightclub will never replace a real nightclub or festival. But the experience that people are going to be able to have is going to be very unique, and you can tailor it. And we kind of see VR as being the new website. Web 3.0. Like I was going to go into NFTs. I usually talk about NFTs right after that, which I'm very not versed in at all. We're exploring it as well and looking into NFTs, but Web 3 and the possibilities of what that's going to do. They still say Web 3 is a little ways out, but it's here and it's starting, and kind of they're usually the early adapters understand the technology before the late adapters. I mean, that's just how it goes.
This realm is like it's different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like in the club, you be with actual people and the vibe of the room and that. And I just thought while you were explaining a little bit that I virtually would like to go, and it's like I want to see this DJ, right? Like I really want to see or want an update or something. But in reality, I had something else going. I'm a little drunk. I'm not getting my hands up, right? So to actually go and see him. And then I think this in the terms like I always like a good DJ, and also to look. Maybe there is something to learn too. I'll get inspired. Yeah, and that would be that more. You're not in the club. You maybe have your headphones on and see or hear even more precise what he is doing. You can hear probably if you attach to the mixer somehow without the room. Then you would hear every touch on the mixer. Excuse me. And then You could like that would be a great joy for me to see, not only for analyzing, but also like yeah, that I would have done the same move, confirmation, right? So like, and then that is a good thing to know, that your heart's at the right place, like, and then what you're striving for, others are striving for as well.
I think what you're describing is the next step of virtuality, or what's coming out is called augmented reality or AR. And, where you see DJs that are live streaming right now, I could go to a show and put on a pair of glasses and they could have those cameras all over the boards watching what's going on. And I could see that view while seeing the live performance. I could see the overlays of those monitors or those cameras watching what the DJ is doing, and then that could be the live stream that's also going out as well. And I could see the chat room. It's going to get pretty crazy here in the next 5 years. We're really super excited to see what happens down there. But overall, 30 years, about 30 years plus in the electronic music industry, what is your ultimate goal as a DJ, producer, label owner?
Wow. I haven't really thought about that. Maybe I don't see. The label was already like big in 2003 to 5 and so on, and it was a complicated procedure to run, to build all that, and so I'm happy when I'm in the studio. I can produce, and I'm happiest when I'm like a medium-sized club, somewhere between 400 and 800. That's the perfect work spot for me. And then the energy is usually what the audience brings, right? So like if they come with an expectation, and then you get to fiddle with it a little bit and see where it possibly could explode and such, and then you can analyze, you can feel that, and then this is like, where do I go from there? This is what makes me happy. I don't know. I don't have that fantastic vision of success.
It sounds like you're already living the ultimate goal.
Yeah, the ultimate goal. Yeah, if I strive for something like that, I probably fail. Right? So like, and not because I'm not trying hard enough, or I would have too many stupid ideas to stray away from what my heart tells me to do. To write and music or to perform. So like, as you getting off the trail a little bit, I would be angry with myself. Well, I just keep doing what I'm doing because I love it.
Well, is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you get going?
Yeah, well, Kanzlerant.com, of course, new releases coming up, and HeikoLaux.com is in bad shape right now. I didn't service it so well. I had this great idea to have the YouTube videos embedded, so you could have it like a record and then have a window and then click next track, and therefore you had to embed playlists. And then they say this is no longer appreciated, it is depreciated, they said. So the playlist function is gone, and so all my videos look empty, like, because they wouldn't display it anymore as a list. So I have to make sense, right? So if they watch the videos commercial free on my end and can hear the video, they can't sell their ads. So it makes sense from their point of view. But I'm like, oh man, there's this Clubhouse release, and now there's not even one track. It says not available, and looks really bad on me, but you changed the rules. I haven't got a decent idea to come up with that, but basically a lot of catalog to hear on those pages.
Awesome. And what was the website one more time? The label site?
Kanzlerant.com. This is up to date. Is for the label, all the releases, all the artists, and HeikoLaux.com, easy to remember, like it says in that corner.
It's one of our little tricks we can do. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions. One last thing before we let you get going. You sent us over an exclusive mix for the DJ Sessions, which we'll be getting into rotation, getting it up there soon, and getting it into our shows. Thank you so much, Heiko, for coming on the show today, or actually this evening for you.
The set entirely for you. Let me know where you put it in, and then I'll share.
Absolutely. And we'll be following up with you here. We'd love to stay in contact with you and keep
Maybe see
things
you on
going.
AE. So Berlin's worth a trip as well, you know.
We'll have to see.
While you're here,
We'll
first
see if
time
I
in Europe.
survive Amsterdam first before I can go over to Berlin. But you know what? I got my new passport or renewed passport. First stamp going in is Amsterdam. Maybe I don't think I have a layover. We haven't even booked flights yet, but we'll see. Maybe there is a extended trip over to Europe. I think that would be really awesome. I'd love to see you and hang out with you for a day or two.
Yeah, cool.
All right,
Looking
Heiko.
forward to it. Oh, I need to go too because it's getting. Yeah, I closed the windows. It's boiling. I'm under the roof. I'm boiling. It's like 30 degrees out there.
I have my air conditioning unit on. So
Oh yeah, the air conditioners. We open the windows at night, right?
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the DJ sessions. We'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Talk soon.
On
Take
that
care.
note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find all our socials there: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Meta, our virtual reality nightclubs. It's all there at thedjsessions.com. This is Darren coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, with Heiko coming in from Berlin, Germany for the DJ sessions. And you know what happens on the DJ sessions? The music never stops.